A survey by the National Bureau of Statistics shows that about 15% of the adult population in the country, which is around 14.3 million people, engage in considerable level of use of psychoactive drug substances. This is a worrying trend, and dealing with it falls on the shoulders of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA. Well, it's our focus on this episode of Special Report. You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. The federal government agency charged with the responsibility of eliminating the growing, processing, manufacturing, selling, exporting and trafficking of hard drugs is the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA. Established by Decree Number 48 of 1989, now Act of Parliament, the agency presently has its formation at the nation's international airports, seaports and border crossing. It tries to eradicate cannabis by destroying plantings. The NDLEA also targets the leaders of narcotics and money laundering organizations. The establishment of the NDLEA was aimed at exterminating illicit drug trafficking and consumption in the Nigerian society. It's a well-known fact that any involvement in drugs, especially importation, exportation, sale, transfer, purchase, cultivation, manufacture, extraction and possession is universally unacceptable. Since its establishment, several efforts have been made to curb the trafficking and illegal use of drugs at every level. To raise the tempo from its present position, in mid-January 2021, the President Muhammadu Buhari approved the appointment of a former military administrator of Lagos and Borno State, Brigadier General Muhammad Buba Marwa, as the new chairman and CEO of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. General Marwa had served as Chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse between 2018 and December 2020, along with others to develop a blueprint on how to end drug abuse in the country. Upon his assumption, there were already high expectations of enduring reforms by staff of the agency as well as Nigerians. His visit to the National Assembly set off the readiness of the new man in charge to take up the task of curbing drug trafficking and abuse. He reveals mind-boggling state of the officials and operational capacity of the agency.
The drug abuse scourge is actually the number one problem we are facing. It's everywhere. First of all, it destroys our kids, women, our youths, the family system. And secondly, it is behind the criminalities, which is everywhere now. Every day on the news or in the newspapers, you read of one criminality or the other. You have to be crazy or have crazy to commit some of these criminalities. And what fuels it is drug use. Even the insurgency itself, they take drugs. The bandits, they take drugs before they go into their activities. And throughout military history, we know that drugs have been used actually as a tool. At the outbreak of World War II, the 3-week campaign by Hitler over Poland, how did they achieve it in 3 weeks to bring an entire country? They gave them drugs, actually. It was issued formally, and the troops broke into Poland for 3 days, no sleeping, because they were already drugged. And this is the same thing that is happening in the country. These criminalities will not end so quickly until we face the underlying nexus between it and drugs. Unfortunately, to this point, the drug situation is not properly factored into the security architecture. We look at the other segments, but forget that this is the causative area that needs to be equally attended to.
Brigadier General Buba Maro observes that the NDLEA has been in a comatose because the morale of the members of staff have been low. He asked for urgent intervention.
When I took over, I found the agency comatose. And this is an agency that we need to demonstrate readiness. Unfortunately, the state of readiness is very, very weak. The morale, above all, is the weakest that I've ever met in any paramilitary institution. Almost every single staff is owed either a DTA allowance or his allowance for prosecution, the movements to and fro, court processes, or transfer, traveling. There's over 4 billion naira owed just for the staff and death benefits. So morale is so low, there's stagnation, the promotions, postings, because there's no money. That is one aspect. It is amazing that we are the only security agency fighting with barons and live among them also in the same communities. And no wonder that they always come in the middle of the night and assassinate our people. We need barracks, we need operational items for work, scanning machines, forensics, polygraph machines, because we must test, we must use lie detectors on our officials to be sure that they are straight and honest.
The National Assembly members are almost on a daily interaction with our constituents, and we know the very debilitating impact of drug abuse in our various communities. And you have rightly said that almost every community in this country suffers from drug addiction. So we are very mindful of what is happening. I believe that this agency needs restructuring. Now that you have taken over, we should go the whole hog to restructure the entire agency, not piecemeal touches, because we need to get it right. My personal opinion is NDLEA should be in the league of EFCC, ICPC, that kind of thing. And therefore, the kind of support that those two agencies I mentioned receive, you should receive something like that. So the National Assembly will definitely work with you, will partner with you, and will ensure that we do our best to give you the kind of support that will enable you properly to discharge your mandate.
Since his appointment as the chairman, the NDLEA boss has sought formations and related organizations that play major roles in the fight against the scourge, with a view to assessing their capacity mitigating the fight against drug abuse. He took a tour to Edo State, Nigeria's South region, where the command intercepted 233,778 kilograms of cannabis sativa, also known as Indian hemp, worth 1.4 billion naira. The group arrived at the destination with obstacles laid along the way. A deserted camp, however, suggests that their visit has been anticipated by the drug dealers.
So we are proceeding down now to the warehouse, the main warehouse. Here used to be a relaxing point for them, but because they have gotten wind of the operation, they have taken to their haste. So we are proceeding straight to the main warehouse for evacuation.
The NDLEA convoy persists with their mission. The journey continues on foot deeper into the forest to look for the drug cartel's warehouses. The persistent search, however, leads to a fruitful one. Thousands of bags of Indian hemp, account books, weapons are discovered.
Wait. Come on to the wonder. Come on to the wonder. Come on, see the wonder. This is a go here. See, go. These are all cannabis. Cannabis. The other buildings. Yes, you can see.
More than 10,000 bags.
To the roof.
To the roof.
This is up to 20,000 bags. Stop to the roof. To the roof.
So tell me, how do you move them? Tell me, how do you even...
Wow. This is massive.
The officials evacuate the bags, the leftovers were destroyed, and 7 suspects said to be linked to the drug cartel in the state have so far been arrested.
This forest is known as Ukpuje Forest in a southwest local government of the state. And we discovered 4 different illicit warehouses for cannabis drugs and a total of about 15,800 bags of cannabis sativa with an estimated value of about 1.4 billion naira has been evacuated. So what we did is we evacuated the ones that we could because the quantity is massive and we have to destroy the remaining. And by this, we are incapacitating the drug trafficking cartels from operating. And of course, we want to let the world know that this operation is particularly stimulated by the 2 brand new Hilux vehicles donated to the state command by the new chairman chief executive, Brigadier General Buba Marwa. And we need this type of encouragement because of course you saw the obstacles we passed through. They know they have invested so much. This is all that they suffered for at the last planting season. So it won't be an easy task for you to come and dislodge them. But we are happy that it was a successful operation. I also want to commend the Commander 4 Brigade. You can see we are here with both officers of the Nigerian Army. It's a combined team. And this is the synergy we need to move forward as a country to defeat all the criminal elements so that innocent citizens can sleep with both eyes closed.
Warning shots about the team as they make their way out of the den. Next is Adamawa State in northeast Nigeria, where over 60 billion naira worth of illicit drugs of all categories were seized by officials of NDLEA. The feat attracted the chairman, who took an assessment tour of the formations in the capital, Yola. This has also necessitated talks on the need for organizations to drum support, cooperation with them to join hands in the fight against illicit drugs.
So far, within the last, should I say 6 weeks, we've been able to seize and therefore put out of circulation over 60 billion naira worth of drugs, illicit drugs of all categories.
We will continue to give them the maximum support within the limited resources we have. We will continue to work together. We will continue to strengthen the agency in Adamawa and to extend it to all the 21 local governments so that they can live and work within the mandate for which they have been established by the law of the country. Drug abuse, I think, is a business that all of us must be involved to kill it. Because if we don't kill it, it will kill this country.
As part of its renewed vigor in interrupting the supply chain of drugs so far, the agency, while striving to achieve strides under its new maxim of offensive action in the fight against illicit drugs and drug abuse in the country, took its anti-drug campaign to the southwest region. In Lagos, officers of the agency's 5 commands of Muritala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, Seme Border, Tinkan Island Port and the Papa Port came all out to receive their new boss. Also on display are experts of the K9 Unit Special Forces of the agency. General Buba Marwa explains that Nigeria is presently under siege of drug abuse and urgent intervention has to be applied to salvage the situation.
Even if it is 1 kilo seized, that is 1 kilo less in the streets to harm Nigerians. That's that aspect, and we'll follow it through, not only relying on the seizures and those arrested, but those who send them. We have to walk it backwards to all the countries, and we'll intensify the MOUs with all these source countries so that it will help in our investigations.
General, good afternoon, General.
I almost forgot the traffic.
Welcome, sir.
Nice having you around.
Thank you.
The anti-drug boss made a brisk visit to Channels Television, where he seeks for further support in terms of enlightenment to fight against drug use and trafficking.
There are 15 million Nigerians that are using drugs. Of those, 10 million are using cannabis and the balance opioids. Now, there are so many reasons, of course, poverty, peer pressure, the usual suspects, those reasons are there. But there's a need for a total society approach to deal with this issue. The NDLEA is indeed the lead agency. It has been a neglected agency for long. That's one of the key problems that we found. But we believe and trust that with the political will of the president, we are coming back, as witnessed in the last 2 months, with the huge seizure that we have been able to achieve. The men are basically good. The officers and men of the NDLEA, they are the same ones that are making the seizures. They are trained, our operations are intelligence-led, we don't act blindly, we work with our partners. So yes, the problems are enormous, but they are solvable. Most of our own activities, of course, are on drug supply reduction, but it has to go together with the drug demand reduction, that is facing the addicts themselves, the drug users themselves. You have to treat them in facilities, you have to equip them for the life after. So what I'm saying is that the propensity for the insurgents and bandits and kidnapping that is going on and spreading has an underlying drug tone to it. So it affects everybody. You don't know who is going to be kidnapped next. So we have to all put our hands together and intercept and interrupt the availability and access to drugs.
Other recent achievements are the seizure of 40 parcels of cocaine weighing 43.11 kilogram with an estimated street value of over 32 billion naira at the Tinkan Island Port Command. Also, the seizure of concealed and unaccompanied parcels shipped to the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, Australia, Maldives and New Ireland by notorious trafficker Sikiru Owolabi. A raid led to the arrests of 90 suspects through an intensive operation across Lagos State. This has also led to the seizure of a total of 614.396 kilograms of hard drugs.
No, it's not Igbo. This is what we call cat.
Okay, cat.
Okay,
what
Chairman
mentioned that.
KHAT.
The Ekiti State government also supports the new drive to curb drug trafficking in the state. The Deputy Governor, Bisi Egbeyemi, while receiving the anti-drug boss, pledged the support of the government to the agency.
The theme of this colloquium is therefore instructive. Walk away from drugs will mean walk away from hard drugs. Emphasizes the need to improve our understanding of the drug problem and how better knowledge will foster our response, specifically in areas of health, governance, and security. I want to use this opportunity to thank the State Command of the NDLA for its tireless efforts in prosecuting its mandate. The state government recognizes this critical role played by the command and will now have a renewed commitment to support its operation.
In its continued drive to rid Nigeria of the manufacture, distribution, sales and consumption of hard drugs, the NDLEA in the southeastern state of Ebonyi is not leaving anything to chance, as it carried out an operation in one of the hostels in the state university with an arrest of 10 students with illicit substances confirmed to be cannabis sativa. The agency discloses that the raid is one of such in the last 2 years, which has led to the arrest of over 240 persons and seizure of more than 500 kilograms of hard drugs.
Based on our statistics, the community is already involved. If we are talking of splitting over, it has already split, because the general statistic of the arrest, we have arrested no fewer than 240 suspects, and we have arrested more than 500 kilograms of various drugs and substances of abuse in Ebonyi here. And this is from the larger community. We have been doing our best, but arrest is not enough. We have come to conclusions and drew up various programs for this year to carry out intensive sensitizations. We intend to have the attention of parents, especially the mothers, and teach them signs they will be able to identify when their younger ones start to get involved in drugs.
People who inject drugs constitute a sizable proportion of high-risk drug users in the country. 1 in 5 high-risk drug users injects drug. More men inject drugs. Women are more likely than men to report injecting heroin. The extent of risky injecting practices and sexual behaviors among the high-risk drug users, and in particular those who inject drugs, are also of concern, as is the extent of self-reported HIV among the group. Women who injected drugs are more likely than men to engage in high-risk sexual behaviors, further impounding their risk for acquiring HIV, among other infections. There's a clear gap in meeting the needs for treatment and care for people with drug use disorders. 2/3 of high-risk drug users reported a self-perceived need for drug treatment. Around 40% among those reported that they had wanted to receive drug treatment but were unable to access such services. The cost of treatment, stigma associated with accessing such services, as well as stigma associated with substance use in general, and availability of adequate drug treatment services were the major barriers in accessing drug treatment in Nigeria. Past year users of tranquilizers and heroin were more likely to report chronic health conditions and poorer health status as compared with other drug users or the general population. Access to services to reduce the adverse consequences of drug use was also limited. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its goals affirm that there can be no sustainable development without peace and no peace without sustainable development. This draws together the strands of peace, rule of law, human rights, development and equality to form a comprehensive and forward-looking framework. However, addressing the drug problems in the country and the effort to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals are thus complementary and mutually reinforcing. Evidence-based effective treatment and care services for people with drug use disorders are a priority to address in Nigeria. Furthermore, scaling up the coverage and provision of a comprehensive package of services for prevention, treatment and care of HIV for people who use drugs in the community and in prison settings is another priority area to reduce the burden of disease for people using drugs. So while the NDLEA is fighting the use of illicit drugs in the country, everyone should contribute and take care of themselves. Well, that's it for this episode of the program, but don't forget, we always would like to hear from you. So reach out to us on our social media handles at any time at all. I'm Ini John Mekwa.